G'day guys and welcome to the very first match of the Briggs Farmers League. We're here with you today in the same fashion as the Cane Toad invaded Queensland, the same way Briggs invade Service Smash, and now we're invading the Yanks live stream to bring you the Aussie version of Farmers League. So kick off your thongs, grab a prawn off the barbie and a coldie out of the fridge. Park your butt on the couch and let's get this show on the road. Hi, I'm Adam Fox, the unoriginal name gamer, here today with Kelios and Spads from Gab, and we'll be your commentators for the majority of this competition. Guys, welcome. Now,
hello.
Before we do get started, we want to go over a few things for those of you new to Farmers League. So firstly, I'm going to pass over the floor to Kelios to give you a rundown on the rules.
Alright, so for those of you who aren't familiar with Farmers League, because obviously this is Briggs Farmers League and there may not necessarily have been people who've watched the actual Farmers League before, we're just going to go sort of over a basis of what Farmers is. So Farmers itself is a 6v6 infantry-only league. Maxes are available for use. There's obviously no beacons to be used. There are exclusions, which all the teams are aware of. And oh, sorry, I'm getting Steam messages. There are exclusion zones that all the teams are aware of that they aren't allowed to go in during the matches. And if they do go into them, there'll be slight penalties or more severe penalties depending on how many times they've gone into those exclusion zones. There are spawn availabilities for the teams that capture the bases that we're playing at tonight, but only once the base itself is capped towards their faction.
Rightio. So, scoring. How does the scoring work, guys? I am still understanding it myself.
So scoring itself, just a couple things to sort of note with scoring. Rocket primaries, and it's only rockets that are sort of a special case with this, count for 0 points within this. A max kill, so killing an enemy max, is 5 points. Grenades or any other type of explosive that isn't a rocket, so claymores, C4, all that sort of thing, only count for 1 point. Any sort of other IVI kill, so just using any sort of usual gun that you would use to kill another player in planetside, is just 2 points. Getting a recap after having the other team has already capped the base and you haven't, and then you go and cap the base, is 30 points. And the base captures themselves are worth 25 points. Also, TKs lose your team 5 points.
Rightio. What about the competition scoring? How does it work with the wins and losses?
Okay, so throughout the match, throughout the series, so it's obviously a 5-round regular season. For each win that a team picks up, they manage to get 3 points for their team. 1 point is awarded to each team for a draw, and if you lose, you get 0 points. So moving towards deciding a tiebreak, because only being a short season, it's probably going to be something that definitely I can see coming up. Tiebreakers are decided on several ways. The first deciding criteria is points for. So points for on all 5 games that your team has played throughout the season. And points for obviously being points that your team has scored against other teams. The second deciding factor, if that's still a tiebreak at that point, is points against, which is the points that all 5 teams that you have played against throughout the season have scored against you. So moving away from that and into the finals format, after the regular season is completed, we have the final regular season matches on the 19th of February, and the first final will be starting somewhere around the 24th of February. The format will be that the first place team after the regular season will play the 4th place team, and the second place team will play the 3rd place team.
Rightio. Now, what about our outfits? Who have we actually got playing in the competition?
Okay, so the 6 teams that we have fighting in this first iteration of the Farmers League are Dire, FCLM, Gab, JUGA, RSNC, and Soka. And really all teams fielding very, very strong rosters from the Dire guys. The key players that I'd be looking at to stand up would probably be Evil Ant and Black Bullet, both players that we haven't really seen too much on live and have come back specifically for this match. FCLM, I'll be looking for Spuddles and Sudones to step up for their team. Both very good heavy players, and being a solid front line for their team, I think that they can do a lot of work. For the Gab boys, I'll be looking at Best Assassin and Callow to stand up. Obviously Kilos, but I'm not going to give him too big of an ego. So I'd look for Best and Callow to stand up on that team. JUGA, I'd be looking for Exocet, arguably the best heavy player on the server, and also Cersei, renowned hacker, looking to stand up for those boys. RSNC, Ching and Luke would be my pick for those guys to really show up. As long as Ching doesn't go up to too many high buildings and jump off and kill himself, he should do pretty well. The Soka guys, probably a more, and by far I think the best rounded team. These guys are really equal, but if I had to pick two, I'd say I'd be looking for Trollin to stand up as well as George.
Rightio. So some very interesting competition there from the outfits that we've got lined up. Now, we should probably have a good look at Pale Canyon before we actually start, seeing as our first 3 matches are actually at Pale Canyon. So we'll swap over to the screen. Obviously, we're still a few minutes away from the actual match, so the guys are still having a bit of muck around at the bases. So we've got our Eastern Sundra down here, which, from the looks of things, TR will be starting at, from the looks of things. And that pushes along into the little L-shaped building here, and they're sort of going to be aiming for this northern 2-story building as their initial sort of hold point, I guess, for capturing A. And from there, they've got a nice bit of cover moving into the point. They've got a nice little angled wall here that I'm pretty sure is fine for the wall jumping bug that happens for these Farmers League competitions. So they've got a little bit of quick access onto the A point. Probably not as good as the Southern Sundra. Now, they have less of an advantage cover-wise. The Eastern Sundra has that L-shaped building to push through, which gives them an extra bit of cover from snipers and whatnot, whereas they've only got these sort of rock formations as they come out from their Sundra. But when it comes to actually speed for the initial push, coming around through the rocks here and then jumping over gives them a quick access to the roof, which is very much the sort of that counter position to start for capturing the A point. So the Southern Sundra there definitely has a quicker sort of ingress, but a more difficult challenge when it actually comes to the rest of the fight, basically. Guys, what are your thoughts on the bases and pushing in initially?
I'd say, particularly with the Eastern Sundra as well, sort of you're quite very vulnerable as you push from that Eastern Sundra past that L-shaped building into your first double stack, being, you know, those 2 double stacks surrounding the point being incredibly sort of large focal points. Really what teams are looking to do is really anchor themselves in their own building and then start pushing the other team out of their respective building as well, to really cement their hold on the point, which can be sort of negated by the Southern Sundra, because the Southern Sundra has that sort of height advantage, and you know, you can get easy rocket primaries and easy snipes on the guys coming from the Eastern Sundra as they either come out of the L-shaped building or go around it and go for the wall jumps up to the top of their double stack.
Yeah, from the Southern Sundra, I'd be looking for, I mean, the opening, these guys have a real advantage in picking people off. So your main focus at the start, and we're going to see this from the start, will probably be a lot of rockets thrown past that silo towards just below where that turret tower is, where the Eastern Sundra guys will be making their way to the point. So that's the main advantage you have to get, and you really do need to secure a pick on that crossing, because there is no way that you'll get to that point faster than the Eastern Sundra. So you're handicapped in the fact that you're probably going to lose the initial point cap. You can offset that by managing to pick someone off, and that's really critical for that approach, because in order to get to the point as fast as the guys in the Eastern Sundra, you need to go through the side door. To get through the side door, you have to be way more exposed than anything and any advantages you've gained by just spawning on that Sundra. So you're throwing away something to try and get the point. I think they just need to be a little bit patient, make sure that they get that pick on the crossing, throw the rockets across, take one out. You've got a 5 versus 6 advantage at that point, and then re-secure the cap from the Eastern Sundra.
Now, definitely worth noting with the Eastern Sundra, if they do actually capture the facility, that gives them access to the spawn room, which gives them an eastern and a western flanking position using that spawn room. So, definitely for the Eastern Sundra, that capture of the A point can definitely make a large amount of tactical difference to the way that you can sort of fight the enemy coming out of that Southern Sundra. It's going to be a very interesting couple of fights over this next Tuesday and Thursday.
Absolutely, and touching on what you were saying about that spawn room coming from the Eastern Sundra, really you can lock down their entire access to the point. It's a risky situation at that point because you've got to at least pull two guys off your point secure, and you're going to be a long way away from the point, but you can get in amongst the rock formations just underneath these big crystals, and lock down their entire approach. They have to deal with you in order to get to the point. They absolutely have to. They don't have a choice, and by the time that they respawn back in, they're probably going to get to the point about the same time as you after you've dealt with them, and you're never really sure how many men they're going to commit to that sort of a situation, so you might kill one and then think you're in the clear, but there's still another two guys hiding in there. So it's a pretty tough one. If the Eastern Sundra does manage to get the cap on the base, then I can see a lot of hell for the Southern Sundra spawn position.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the biggest strength of the Southern Sundra is that first initial push. You know, getting those one or two picks as the guys from the Eastern Sundra push out of that area near the L-shaped building or the tower, as you were saying. That's really the big strength, and because a lot sort of later on in matches, you often see teams getting virtually pushed back to their Sundra, and sort of being camped by the other team, and them holding in their building that would not traditionally be theirs and would instead be the building of the Eastern Sundra. So I think that's definitely sort of an advantage that the Southern Sundra has.
Rightio, so we've still got a few minutes left before the actual competition starts, so we should probably have a look at our two teams that are fighting tonight. So we'll swap over to the actual beginning roster. So we've got a nice tight looking team from both groups there. We've got Cersei, Exocet, Jack Mac, Nakora, Newt, and Rocco for JUGA, as well as Fappy, Mono, Spuddles, Rippling, Slime Hunter, and Roberth from FCLM, not FLCM, as I keep saying in the practice rounds. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Kilius, thoughts? What do you think about the teams that we've got coming in tonight?
I think both very high level teams, definitely sort of the higher level teams that I would pick within Briggs Farmers. So it's going to be quite a good match. Definitely, I'm really looking, as Spadge said a little bit earlier, Exocet to just really dominate for JUGA tonight. I know we saw him. I think he was one of the only JUGA guys to actually go positive in that last match with Dyer, the practice match that we did last week. So really looking for him to step up tonight and see how he goes. Also, just real quick, I think you might want to sort of adjust your TeamSpeak volumes, Adam, if you can.
Radio.
But yeah, JUGA doing really good work last week, so it'll be interesting to see how they go against FCLM this week. I know we've done some practice against FCLM before. That was one of the matches that we streamed a couple weeks ago. Actually, that was the very first practice match that we did. So, you know, I would say it's going to be quite a balanced match, just as sort of a prediction. I don't necessarily see one team getting a massive lead on the other. What about you,
I generally agree with that. I'd like to think that JUGA probably will have a bit of a point control advantage, and what FCLM probably need to avoid falling into is losing control of the point and then losing control of the entire game just by having a poor first round. I think if they can keep their heads about them, play the game, and really focus on their strength, and they have an extremely strong front line, they can punch with these guys absolutely no problem. So I don't think getting on the point is going to be an issue, but I think getting on the point in the most efficient way possible might be a problem, because you are coming against someone like JUGA who does this for a living on live. They really focus, and they're used to holding a point against 20, 30 people with 6 to 12 people. It's what they do. It's their bread and butter. So FCLM, if they want to go punch for punch with these guys, they're really going to need to do it smartly. So if they can follow in behind, they've got the likes of Spuddles and Slime Hunter, who are, for my mind, probably going to be the guys right up the front, getting that initial pick and then moving into the point. If those guys can get good trades and get them into an advantageous numbers point, I think they're in a pretty good spot. But they really need to work on that, because they're going to be hassled the whole time by guys like Rocco that we saw in that last match, the last practice match, that were just always on the roof, always hassling you, always in spots you don't expect them to be. You're always looking up. You're always thinking, oh, am I going to get my head taken off here? And you've got someone like Newt, who in the last practice had some pretty bad connection issues, but we all know is definitely a great sniper. This map probably not the best for snipers. This one's, the angles themselves are a lot more closed off than what we had at the last practice match map that we had. So I'd like to see how he's going to change that. But yeah, I think taking smart, just being smart with the way that they approach a recapture of the point, because I really see JUGA making a focus of that point, getting out to an early lead, and then maybe just sitting back on their laurels from there and coasting in the second round. So I picked JUGA to win in a very close match.
Absolutely, and sort of going back on what you were saying with the difference in the way that Gannon plays, particularly for sniping, compared to Pale Canyon. Pale, it's not so much about getting the picks with the sniper. It's definitely, I wouldn't say even necessarily about getting picks that much with snipers on Gannon. It's certainly definitely there for Fallbridge, which is one of the maps that we'll see later on in the season. But I think with Pale in particular, it's more about the sort of recon and denial of recon for the enemy team. So, getting that motion dildar down for your team, figuring out where the other team is, of course, if they're not running Sensor Shield 4, which I would assume quite a few of the FCLM and JUGA guys will probably be running tonight, because it is a very strong implant to sort of deny the enemy team, even if they do have recon up, deny their ability to see you. It'll be interesting to see the dynamic between Newt and Slime Hunter, who I would say will probably be the infiltrator for FCLM tonight, and how they go about, EMPing and counter EMPing one another, and really getting that sort of dynamic with the denial of recon and just recon in general.
I'll be quite interested to see if during the competition we actually get the changes to the battle hardening implant that are sort of being rumoured on Reddit at the moment, whether or not any of the guys will start swapping to that for an advantage in the upcoming sort of competition. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Definitely. I could see that, like you all said. Sensor Shield would probably be the go-to at that point. Weapon flinch, and it's not too bad in this kind of format. You don't have tanks bombarding the base, but you're also coming up against guys that are purely aiming at your head. No one's aiming for the chest. Everyone's going for the head. Everyone's a good shot. So you do get a lot more flinch from a direct engagement. But Sensor Shield, it stops you from your enemy actually knowing where you are. So if you're smart about it and you take a fight that your enemy doesn't even know you're there, by the time he turns around, you should have killed him. You don't really need Battle Hardened for that. If you're not being shot at, then Battle Hardened is completely useless. So I could definitely see that being a situation. If that screen shank does get reduced, I think they're talking 30%. So big reduction. It's basically the best rank of Battle Hardened as it is now. So what you're experiencing now on live using Battle Hardened 4 is what you're going to get on live using absolutely nothing. So big change.
I believe that's the 5-minute warning.
5-minute one, really?
5 or 10 minute, I'm not entirely sure.
Ooh, then.
Main thing is that the soundboard's working. Good job, Knifey.
Yeah, at least he's got it working. Better than the last couple. Obviously, everyone that's involved in this is quite new to Farmers League. We've had Tav and Scorch and that all giving us sort of advice and whatnot. But yeah, the practice matches have definitely made a difference, and we've ironed out a fair few of the wrinkles. Obviously, we're not going to be great right off the bat. It'll still take a little bit of time, but hopefully by the finals we should have all of the little bugs and whatnot ironed out.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was 5 minutes, so probably a little bit less than 5 minutes now. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because there is a very big sort of dynamic with infiltrators within farmers, and it swaps very wildly between maps each week. So, you know, what I was saying a little bit before, with Fallbridge Chemical, one of the maps that I believe it's the next map in the rotation, actually. It's more for the infiltrator about getting that one or two picks, and getting the guys off the balconies within the point room. Whereas on maps that are a little bit more sort of close quarters, like Gannon and Pale Canyon, you sort of rely a little bit more on the use of EMPs to get rid of enemy recon and keeping your own recon up, and you know, putting those dildars down in spots that are hard to reach with EMPs. That's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed out of, at the very least, practices that we've done, and you know, practices that I've seen other people do as well. Getting good dildar placement for your team is really, really critical. You can have a dildar that's you know 20 meters behind where you guys are all sitting, and it might get, you know, one or two guys, whereas if you move it up that extra 20 meters, you can get their entire team, you know, obviously provided they're not running sensor shield.
Certainly, and on this map I know that this was probably the only one that I saw, and it was, I think, in one of the practices where we were up against RSNC. I actually saw someone pull out an SMG infiltrator, and I think it was Ching at that point, simply because the sniping probably just wasn't working. So that was an interesting thing, and I'd be interested to see if any of these guys actually pull that out, because very strong tool, but very much a glass cannon. You will get beaten if you go 1 versus 1 with a heavy. So you've got to pick your engagements if you're going to take that sort of a role. And it also puts you in a position where you need to be close to the enemy to be effective and kill trade. But you also need to be close enough and far enough back that you can put down a good motion sensor and give your team the information. Because if you're just going in for the kill, that might be great. You may end up with a good score, but you can also deny your team a lot of information. And your one player can be going really well, but your 5 other players are just getting absolutely decked because they have no idea where the enemy is, no intel. You're less focused on removing the enemy's motion sensor because you're up and in the fray yourself, so you don't want to give away your position. So it's a real risk-reward thing, so I'll be interested to see if someone actually pulls out the SMG infiltrator on this map, because there's a lot of close quarters on this one.
Absolutely, and I think we've seen as well in practices that we've done, light assaults are immensely effective on Pale Canyon. You know, just being able to get that light assault around the back of where the heavies would all be looking. You know, majority of the heavies will be, that's 1 minute, I believe. Majority of the heavies will be looking at the point. So you know, if you can get that light assault behind them, it's really, really useful. Just sort of getting those 1 or 2 picks and then getting right back out of there, using that mobility of the jetpack that the light assault gets.
Oh, it's high pitch is starting. We're very close now. Still can't believe
Probably
this
getting
has
close
all
to 30
come
seconds.
together. Yeah.
Hype train leaving the station.
Yeah, guys, just to clarify, obviously we're doing the pre-chats a bit longer today, just to give you a general overview of everything for people that are new to Farmers League, and so people know about the changes. And here we go.
We've got FCLM starting on the Southern Sundra, and it looks like we have got full heavies and 1 infiltrator. 5 heavies, 1 infiltrator from the FCLM guys.
JUGA's running 4 heavies, 1 LA, and 1 infill. All the expected roles there.
Light assault from JUGA straight in on the point. And that's Rocco.
Rocco really trying to get that point sort of locked in and held down for JUGA, just as the heavies get into that building and get themselves set up.
FCLM have started with 3 up on the roof there, as well as 2 out in the open ground.
Rocco already just starting to harass some of the FCLM guys in their building. Really using that mobility of the light assault that I was talking about just before. Unfortunately, getting down for a mutual
Kill
there.
shooting there, yeah.
FCLM do actually
Took
have the point today.
Yeah. So we do have at least one Jugger guy on the actual point.
That's right,
Yeah.
Jack Mack is on the
Mack,
point
yeah.
for Jugger.
Jack Mack and Exoset just sitting, trying to get that neutralization down. It's the same deal as all the bases in Farmers. For the first sort of 2 minutes, that neutralization of point doesn't necessarily matter. It's that last 2 minutes of when the base does get close to flipping to your faction that it really starts to become more of an issue. Jugger doing a really good job of just pushing into FCLM's building, not really pushing in too hard or too quickly. Really being measured about their push.
Definitely lost control of the point for a quick second there, though. They had FCLM managed to get 2 guys onto the point and flip it back over to their control. Both of them went down in the end for no kills on their own team, but just a little bit of shakiness from Jugger, pushed out too far.
Absolutely. FCLM starting to push back into that point room now.
Spuddles, or Rippling, sorry, took down Exoset, and Exoset took down Spuddles. And then Rippling goes down to Rocco, still harassing them on the roof of their building. Goes and gets another pick. Great kill there by Rocco.
FCM just sort of slowly coming back into their building, not wanting to push Jugger too hard, because it is really difficult to get a team that's really entrenched into your own building to really start pushing them out. So they're really just trying to get a good foothold and go for those 1 or 2 picks and then really start pushing into their building.
So we've had Fappy, I think, manage finally take down Rocco. He was sitting over the top of their spawn. Jugger were really putting the pinch on their spawn entry points. They had Rocco up on the rocks above them, as well as a couple of their guys down around the silos. So really not letting them even get into their own building. They're holding them way, way back. So FCLM's going to need a real concerted push just to get into their own building, let alone onto the point.
Absolutely, and it's worth noting as well, I mean, obviously it's a little bit difficult for FCLM at the moment because Jugger are holding the flanks so well, as we would sort of expect them to. You can actually, to a certain degree, push around to the other team's building and start pushing in from there, really start rooting them out from their own end and then start pushing into your own building from the opposite direction. So it might be something that FCLM definitely wants to consider doing if they can manage to sort of get 1 or 2 guys around into Jugger's building.
And Newt just sitting on the top of the Jugger building, picking off as he goes, doing a really good job of keeping up his motion sensor and just harassing them enough, letting them know that he's still there, and just really pissing them off at this point. It's got to be said. He's just being a menace.
He's starting to push in. I noticed he just went into the balcony of the FCLM building. So Jugger really taking quite an offensive stance, trying to really deny FCLM from getting back into their own building and forcing them back into that area near their spawn. So it'll be interesting to see if Juggernaut cap the base in the next minute or so, how they do with that little rocky area just near the spawn, sort of tightening that stranglehold they have on FCLM at the moment.
So only 30 seconds to the cap, so FCLM really needs to get a concerted push on that point. They don't really want to throw it away this early, but at the same time, they may just concede the cap and then from here on out purely take trades that benefit them to try and close the gap, but they're falling behind pretty significantly pretty early, so I think they just copped a punch in the face and really finding a hard way to get back up and keep fighting at this point.
Yeah, definitely. They started to make sort of a relatively good push around from the silos into their own building, but unfortunately it looks like Jugger just sort of brought 1 or 2 of their extra heavies over and reinforced that, made sure FCLM really couldn't push into that building at all.
Yep, and that is the point. Kept going over Jugger, 25 points into their pockets.
Looks like we've already got Rocco going over to use those rocks like he was just a little bit earlier, really denying FCLM from getting that flank off and then being able to get into the other side of their building.
He has been spotted out though. They did see him before he destroyed that motion beacon, so FCLM needs to respond.
Looks like they're beginning to push again at Silo. JUGA really doing a very good job of just rotating around, following FCLM. That's probably in part to Newt, keeping that motion sensor up for JUGA, just making sure his team knows exactly where FCLM is, and it's really denying FCLM from being able to push correctly anywhere, realistically.
That's right, we see 3 guys from FCLM behind those silos. One of them just got picked off, the other 2 are pinned down, cannot move. They're camped in from the high points of both buildings, as well as the low points. If they make a run for the door, they'll get picked off. If they stay there, they'll get picked off. They're really in a poor position, and to be honest, they'll probably redeploy out of it and just pick another point where they should attack, because it's not going to work for them from there.
Absolutely, and Rocco, once again, doing a really good job of just getting those 1 or 2 really crucial picks, really thinning down FCLM as they start to make a decent push into their building. Unfortunately, going down, taking a few
being flanked by
guys
the
with them.
JUGA guys there, and getting 2 of their guys getting taken down.
JUGA once again doing just a good job of holding on to that point and FCLM's building, and it is really difficult for FCLM or another team at that Southern Sunrise. Once you get pushed back to that or out of your own building, it's very, very difficult to push back into the point.
Yeah, Neokora with a double kill there, and Exocet taking another one down from the rocks, spawning out of the spawn room.
That Southern Sunrise there is definitely the worst starting position, especially when you get into this sort of situation where you just don't have enough cover coming out of the Sundra.
Absolutely, and Newt doing a really good job of even just getting the body shots off on FCLM, getting that 60-odd% health damage, and making sure that the other JUGA guys, the heavies, can just get those 2 or 3 extra bullets in them and take the FCLM guys down a little bit easier. Trade going off with, I believe that was Rippling and Jackmack.
Slime managed to take down Exocet up in these rocks, so it is clear for the time being. However, he's come straight back and he's harassing them again.
FCLM starting to push up through those rocks. Rocco going up behind them as the light assault. Unfortunately being spotted. That was that SMG infill with Mono that you were talking about, Spadge. So interesting seeing him pull that out.
Yep, I guess he figures that they're probably far enough back into these rocks that they aren't going to get pushed off the location of their motion sensor anyway, so they may just be falling back into the let's just trade kills effectively. Let's just go 1 for 1, 2 for 1, slowly build a score back that way, and then maybe move into the next round without having dug ourselves an absolute crater to get out of.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's similar to Gannon with that the Northern Sundra. It's one of those things, if you get stuck starting at that Northern Sundra, you're going to have a bad time, especially against teams of these caliber. It's really more now focusing on the second round and getting those, sort of minimizing the damage from the first round and really trying to get a bit of a leg up in that second round. Making sure the gap isn't too large so you can really start to push back in that second round quite hard.
Cersei cleaning house. The boys tried to push in. It was a heavy and the SMG infiltrator and just got destroyed. No chance. Oh, we do see an S1 kill though. That's the first rocket primary I've seen today, so...
Yeah.
Still a great tool, the rocket primary. Doesn't score you points, but obviously takes a man off the field for the enemy and possibly splashes the rest of them that are standing behind him. The best case scenario with that is obviously you splash them, then move in and finish them off with a gun, pick up the 2 points for your team.
Absolutely, and even if you don't get that 2 points, just that having that man advantage can really be quite crucial, especially in moments where you really need to make big pushes. JUGA doing a really good job of just holding those... holding those rocks near FCLM's spawn, making sure they can sort of deny them from even being able to use that sort of access path up into their building.
And right now you see FCLM are more worried about just removing Exocet, who's being an absolute rock spider at the moment. Exocet in the rocks, got Rocco on top of the roof, throwing frags in. They just can't get rid of them at all. Nothing they
Absolutely.
can do.
Rocco doing really well as the light assault, as we would sort of expect, and definitely saw from him last week. Just being a bit of a harassment for FCLM. Not necessarily getting all that many picks that I've seen, but definitely getting the damage on, so some of the other heavies can finish them off.
And tightening the noose too. He's moving up right now. He's probably a bit too far, but picks one off and doesn't even get punished for it. Runs back out, goes back to his point, keeps doing what he's doing. Just reminding him, hey boys, I'm still here. You do have to get rid of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's doing a good job of sort of knowing when to push forward and pull back. And that's really crucial as the light assault player in Farmers. Knowing the critical moments to push forward and pull back.
Have a flip on the point though. We've got one man. No. Infiltrator manages to take him out.
Very
Newt
quickly.
going in there with the commissioner. Not Bob would be proud.
Nice kill by Rocco and Slime Hunter there.
And the JUGA guys really tight scoring wise, really close together with each other. There's probably a lot of spread across the FCLM guys on who's scoring well. Not talking net score, but just overall points on the board. They're all up around 30 and none of them are below 20. So really, really close. So none of them are below 24.
All of them doing quite well as well, just sort of holding the positions that they've moved into, really denying FCLM from being able to properly get a foothold outside of that sort of first rock formation just out the front of their Sundara. And they've really sort of tightened them into that position. They're not really getting that flank in. Starting to get a decent push in now.
JUGA just absolutely climbing out to a huge lead on this one. Absolutely massive at this point.
Once again, I think what you would have to do as FCLM here is really just have someone, and it is really crucial in farmers teams because it can be quite stressful. Just having someone being able to say, now hang on guys, we need to hang back, push as a group rather than going for the 1v1s, because players of this caliber, 1v1s are on such high ping as well. It can be very, very difficult sort of winning those 1v1s. But FCLM still doing quite a solid job. Probably overextending a little bit too far towards the main spawn at the base here. JUGA just sort of picking them off as they do so.
Well, we do get both Rocco and Exocet down, so that finally lets them push, but they've lost one guy in that fray. One man's gone down on the rocks over the point. They've already lost two guys at least. I think a third one's gone down trying to get to the back door. So they're making a push with three guys at best against four guys from JUGA. So
yeah,
forced into a really bad situation already, even though they just took a 2-for-1.
Neokora doing a really solid job of just holding the inside of FCLM's building, not letting them push in, taking out two of the guys as they sort of jumped into the building, and just doing a really solid job of holding that building.
The 1 minute mark.
1 minute, yep.
I think for the JUGA guys, they've really obviously talked about who's going to be standing where, who's watching what lane, who's doing what, because there's no point that you can think, okay, they've left that open, we'll just get lucky and we'll push down there. There has been absolutely no crack in the armor. If Exocet moves to go to the rocks like he's been doing, then someone's covering his point on the roof. If Rocco's moving in over the top, then someone's watching his back at all times. They're never one.
30 seconds.
Absolutely, and they're really, I would expect no different from JUGA. They're really sort of known within live server play for their point holds and, getting people to just watch specific angles and making sure, the other members of your team have your back. So I would expect absolutely no different from them. And they're doing a good job of translating that live play into farmers, which is great to see. That's the end of round one.
There we have it. Rightio. So our scores for the halftime: JUGA with 227, with fifth column to 76. Positive net scores from all of JUGA this time around, and the negative net scores for FCLM. Obviously, that's going to be the case with such a high score difference. We've got who highest kills for JUGA is Nakora with 19 kills, and highest kills for FCLM is Slime Hunter with 10, both reasonably expected from the amount of engagements that they went into and won.
Absolutely, and I think what FCLM are going to have to focus on in this second half is probably not so much just going sort of blindly for that point, but really trying to take out Jugger in 2 or 3v1s where they can manage them. So I think more for this second round, they haven't dug themselves into too much of a hole, but it's certainly not quite as small a lead as they would have liked for this second half. I'd say what they really sort of have to focus on is just trying to get points back at the very start, not so much focusing on that base cap to begin with, maybe trying to get 1 or 2 wipes on Jugger, try and get 20 or 30 points off of Jugger, perhaps just making mistakes, because it is difficult sort of coming from that Southern Sundara to find the right moments to push, and once you get sort of locked down, which may be what FCLM might look to do, once you sort of get locked down back into that Sundara, it's very difficult to push out once again.
Absolutely. I mean, Jugga, for them, that's exactly what they wanted to do in this one, and it's almost emotional warfare at this point, because how do you come back when the difference between you and the opposition team is double the score that you managed to get in that one round? They absolutely gave it to them in that round, and really good job from the Jugga guys. I mean, the main problem that I see from FCLM, they have no one that we've seen that can go toe-to-toe with Rocco. No one that can be that force to just be above them, be around them, just float around the rocks, pick off one, go 1 for 1. And that seems to be disrupting FCLM's groove in it at the moment. They're just always walking into fights or always walking into a push, already a man down. And with the defender's advantage somewhat diminished by the high ping, you're still at a disadvantage. These guys are waiting for you. They're peeking. They're looking, they've already got their shields up, they know you're coming because their motion sensor's been up the entire match, because it's been damn near impossible to get close enough to them to EMP the thing. So Rocco for me is a real pivot point for Jugger guys. I think for FCLM to have even a chance, they really need to get someone that can compete with him and do the same thing that he's doing to them, to Jugger. They need to be able to disrupt them. They need to be able to just poke the bear a little bit and then maybe flutter them enough that they lose control of the point. They've got the advantage that Jugger had last time. They really, for mine, to come out on top in this one, need to secure the point, need to capture the point, and then need to get someone on that side of the spawn room, push from both sides, and really pincer the Jugger guys in.
Now,
Absolutely,
who was it that was Jugger's infiltrator for this round? Was that Newt, was it?
That
Yep,
was Newt. Yep.
That was Newt. That was one thing I noticed watching through the stream as well, is Newt never moved off that northern rooftop, and having that open ground there as well, like the Jugger definitely had the sort of advantage in that sniper position as well. There were definitely, Newt had 15 kills to 1 death there, so he came out with the highest net score for all of Jugger because of the fact that FCLM never got anywhere near that northern building, and so he wasn't taken out and was just one after the other popping them off at any chance that he had. So having that aerial denial as well from your infiltrator definitely helps Jugger out a lot as well with the score.
Absolutely, and I think it'll be one of the things that FCLM is going to have to sort of focus on, trying to get, I believe it was Slime Hunter playing the infill role, or the sniping role for FCLM last round, trying to sort of get Slime Hunter up into that area where Newt was before, and trying to get that that recon down for his team. And it'll be interesting to see if FCLM bring out a light assault this time to sort of counter Rocco and get onto that point just that little bit quicker, like we saw Rocco do last round.
We've got 30 seconds to the start of the second round.
Sounds about right.
And of course, guys, anyone watching for the first time, the Sunder replacements are flipped, so FCLM will be spawning from the east and Jugger will be spawning from the south.
Having a bit of trouble with the
so it's
soundboard, I think.
soundboard.
That's right, guys. We love our horns. High quality production here. No, we have five heavies coming out from Jugga and Rocco on the light assault again. So no infiltrator. Oh no, sorry. Four heavies, one infiltrator, and the light assault from Jugga.
Looks like 5 heavies and the infill from FCLM. So not pulling a light assault to start with.
And Rocco straight in onto the point.
But there might have been a bit of a delay there because of the muck up with the air horn from the two teams. Jugga seemed to be quite off the mark a little bit quicker than what fifth column were. Giving
Absolutely,
fifth column
really
a bit of an advantage. Or, well, Jugga a bit of an advantage, I should say.
Rocco doing a good job of just sort of getting that harassment in quite early with FCLM. Jugga really taking over FCLM's building very early, and that could be from that little mishap at the start there.
Regardless, Jugga absolutely dominant into the FCLM building. Saw Slime Hunter manage to get a wall jump off and get onto the roof as a light assault. And Slime Hunter is the infiltrator and got picked off by Rocco. But we do see a light assault coming out. Spuddles trading there with
Fortunately trading with
Jugga
Jackmack. Yeah.
So they are answering. They are doing what they need to do to get back into this game. Now they just need to execute. They've got the tools that they need. They just need to put them in. And smartly holding off here. They're sitting back, waiting to regroup. They'll go in as a team.
Absolutely. Jugga doing, as we saw last round, a really good job of just holding FCLM's building, really not letting them into their own building and trying to get those picks as they come out of that Sunderer.
Yeah, absolutely suffocating the FCLM guys right now. There's no approach. Newt just picks off another man. There's absolutely no spot that they can get through that's safe. For me, I think that FCLM needs to get their infiltrator up on the high ground because Jugga is very exposed, but at the same time they're covering a silo side with Rocco. There's not too much there that you can get through because if your infiltrator's up on that high point, he might go 1 for none, and then he's probably going to get picked off by Rocco for his efforts.
Absolutely. Looks like we got one of the FCLM guys starting to push around a silo. He's got a Jugga heavy chasing him and engaging Rocco, taking him down, but Neocora getting him back.
He did pick off another man before that engagement too, so he did go 2 for 1, so they probably need to press off this. Not knowing what's happening on the other side of the map, they may be losing more than they're gaining.
Looks like Mono really considering that wall jump. I don't think any of the FCLM guys have sort of attempted it as yet. Newt getting a nice snipe on Slime Hunter there, I believe.
Finally pushing in here. It's pretty clear, this building.
FCLM starting to get a bit of ground back. I believe Newt's the only Jugga guy left in FCLM's building.
We do have Jack Mack in there as well.
Oh, yeah, down the bottom, yeah.
Playing with a couple of heavies.
FCLM getting on that point. Good to see from them because I believe Jugga only had about 1.5 minutes left on that point capture, so neutralizing that point.
But back in on force already, we've got Exoset and Neocora already on the point, flipping it back into Jugga's control.
Jackmack doing work against Mono there. Unfortunately getting taken down by, I believe that was Spuddles? No. Oh yeah, Spuddles, yeah.
Spuddles.
And Cersei, absolutely no fear, just completely runs full frontal past the spawn entry point and picks off 2 guys coming into the room. But if there had been someone walking back from the spawn from the FCLM guys, he would have gone down immediately. But calculated risk and manages to go 2 for none.
Absolutely. Once again, doing a really good job of just denying FCLM their own building, as we saw in the last round. Doing a very solid job of holding that that building. Newt doing excellent work, just taking out 1 or 2 of the the FCLM guys as they push across past that L-shaped building, trying to get back into their building. Looks like Spuddles, I believe, it got up a wall jump back in their building.
Up onto the top of the roof there.
He has, and he really needs to push for the point here, unsupported or supported. He has to get on that point and try and flip it if they have any chance of coming back on this one.
Absolutely. Looking like Jugga's still going to get that point cap, though.
They do.
There it goes. Yep.
Spuddle's going down, getting destroyed there.
JUGA once again just sort of doing a good job of having, those one or two heavies just down on the bottom floor of FCLM's building and not letting FCLM really push in when they do get that those one or two heavies past Newt who's up on the roof. Well, it looks like he's out by the silos at the moment.
And a bit of desperation out of the FCLM guys. You can see them walking around corners with their rockets already out. They know that they're behind in points. They know that a rocket's not going to get them anything, but they just want to put someone or something down so that they can maybe get a man advantage. And Exocet just tearing apart two FCLM guys, doing really good holding that lane.
Absolutely. Slime Hunter starting to push up with a couple of other FCLM guys. Going down to Neo Cora though with that double kill. Excellent work from him.
And that was purely pointed out from Exocet took a bit of damage. Obviously the guys that had just gone down to Exocet, that guys, he's hurt, get around there, start shooting him. As soon as they did that, two JUGA guys came spewing out of that doorway to engage the guys that JUGA knew were coming. They knew that Exocet was hurt and they knew they'd be hunting him. So really good communication there from the JUGA guys for Exocet to obviously call out and say, boys, get out there, they're coming, and pick up the double kill for Neo.
Absolutely, and once again, FCLM just getting a little bit desperate with those rockets, trying to get that splash damage so they can potentially win those one-on-ones with JUGA. Unfortunately, not really working out that well for them.
Well, 10 seconds with Exocet, down and respawning is 10 seconds that they've got to push back in. Same thing with Rocco as well.
Absolutely, I think those two are really the linchpins for JUGA tonight. Cersei, Neo Cora doing a good job of just holding the inside of the building, but Rocco and Exocet just holding those flanks really, really well. So very well done to them.
At this point for FCLM, it might be a smart idea to just let Exocet run out of ammo.
Yeah, and have to redeploy out. Absolutely.
But as you say that, he goes down, and Rocco comes in to fill his spot, sitting on the high ground as the light assault still.
Cersei doing an excellent job getting 2 more kills out of that. Possibly getting a third in a minute. Once again, doing a very solid job with along with Neo Cora in FCLM's building, just keeping FCLM down when they do make it inside the building, and Exocet or Rocco for whatever reason letting them in and not getting either damage on them or killing them outright. I think if I were FCLM right now, I'd be considering sort of pushing a little bit more around to Silo, because the only person it looks like JUGA have sort of holding the Silo at the moment is Newt. And, if you can get 2 or 3 heavies rushing at one infiltrator, it's pretty much game over for the infiltrator. So it might be worth FCLM considering a flank and, potentially going into JUGA's building, pushing them out through that.
I'd agree completely. I think they have to try something different. They've been trying to run down this alleyway where Exocet's been camping for the better part of 10 minutes now. It's just not working for them at all. And at the same time, they keep trying to push down that alleyway. And one point that we probably overlooked at the start was when you do capture the base, this spawn room has a teleporter, and that teleporter gets you directly behind where Exocet's standing right now. So if he dies, it'll probably take him about 16, 17 seconds to get straight back there with full ammo, full grenades, ready to go, and he's just going to be the same pain. So even if you manage to pick him off, you go 1 for 1 at best, you're really not going to have any advantage for any period of time that's going to allow you to do anything else except get in the building, and then you've got to think on the fly, because in 5 seconds time, that same bloke that's just been the bane of your existence is going to be straight back there and picking your head off.
Absolutely, and it looks like one of the FCLM guys has actually pushed in. That's Slime. No, Rippling, sorry. He's actually pushed into the FCLM's building. Coming up behind, probably trying to get a rocket pick. Just pick one of the JUGA guys off. Rocco has spotted him though. Takes down Rocco. He's got another JUGA guy pushing him.
Just goes down as he gets the rocket out.
Absolutely. JUGA, sort of, as much as I mentioned it before that they weren't really holding Silo too much, it looks like they may have anticipated that FCLM might consider doing that flank. So they've got one of the heavies just sort of holding around Silo, being a bit of a nuisance, and being Cersei, it's it's not exactly going to be easy for FCLM to get into 1v1s and push him off silo.
No,
Nice snipe from
not at
Slime
all.
Hunter there.
Yes, that's right. They did get, was that Exocet went down there, but Cersei manages to pick off the FCLM man, pushing in on silos and then continue to shut down their other approach. So, yeah, FCLM managed to get a pick, but kicked right back in the teeth by the JUGA guys, and it's almost at this point that they're just playing with their food because they really are doing this textbook. Every angle's covered by 2 men. Every time someone takes damage, there's 2 more JUGA guys to back him up, get him out of there, and take an advantageous trade. Right there again in silo. Cersei got attacked, and Rocco dropped straight off the top of the silo, and they managed to go 1 for none yet again. But we do have a push coming into the silos, 2 men coming in for FCLM, and they've already lost 1.
Yeah, it looks like they're really starting to push quite aggressively for that silo. FCLM guys, Spuddle's getting a little bit close to that exclusion zone here at Pale. Not really sort of rooting Cersei out of that that silo position yet, though.
Did manage to get Rocco, so they got something. Almost a team kill there, very dangerous, but managed to trade it 1 for 1. And ever present, Cersei is still there at his silo.
Still covering the silo.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That must be where he stores his hacks.
Yeah, Cora doing a good job. Just sort of taking out the FCLM guys as they come in, and Newt doing an excellent job. It's also worth noting just the way he's getting those 60% damage shots on the FCLM guys, and then letting the other heavies finish him off. Doing a really good job of that.
Cersei finally going down around the silos though, so we are a little bit open, but Jack Mac is on the other silo. This is currently a 2-man down situation for JUGA.
FCLM not really taking advantage of that though. I'm not entirely sure how they're doing. Sort of getting trapped in that that L-shaped building a little bit.
They are. And the last place that you really want to be. You're on an open map, you need to use the space to your advantage, but at the same time, JUGA is shutting down those open spaces by covering all of the angles so well that you really can't. So they've got 2 options. They've got to come through a confined space, probably get picked off and bottlenecked, or they've got to go through an open space and they have to outshoot the JUGA guys. And the way that they've been shooting and just covering those angles, they've got Buckley's of abs but beating them. This JUGA team, and not just the individual players, the team themselves and the way that they're playing as a unit, really impressive.
Absolutely. I think on the other side of the coin though, Spuddle's definitely doing a really good job of just getting those 1 or 2 picks, sort of holding out in that area close to the exclusion zone near the silos. Just getting those 1 or 2 picks as the JUGA guys get a little bit over aggressive and start to push him. So he's really sort of just anchored himself down in that defensive position and gone, all right, you can come to me. And he's gotten quite a few kills out of it, so well done to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Top scoring for FCLM at the moment. He's done very well, but again, it comes down to net score at the end of the day. If you're going to give your opponents a lot of points, you need to be making sure that your team is making inroads, and unfortunately the team is just not backing him up. He'll make the pick, they'll get the man advantage, and then they've just got no manpower left to push that forward.
Absolutely.
They've managed to isolate Jack Mac here around the silos, but he does sneak out just.
Chugging medkits as he runs away.
Yeah, medkit tanking.
FCLM really starting to make a good push into JUGA's building now. JUGA, to a certain degree, making a bit of a mistake just letting FCLM push around into their building, because that can be quite dangerous. Although it looked like Jack Mac did take the 1 FCLM heavy went in down.
Are you talking the northern or the southern building? Because I've got FCLM in the northern building, which is actually their own building that they've not been able to hold on to.
I think they pushed into both at that point. There was definitely one man going in who went up against Jack Mac and got taken down, but the building which Newt is currently in, JUGA's building, that was the building that he was trying to push into. And if he had have managed to take Jack Mac down, he probably had a clear run to the roof to take out Newt. And that's someone that, to be honest, I know he's died once, but I haven't seen him go down this round, so he may be looking at a one death match for him, which is just insane.
Absolutely. Doing an excellent job as that light assault for JUGA.
But again, Jugga just getting control back of the silos, going back to their what's been working for them, taking one man down,
And
that's
end
it.
of round.
and we're over.
Well, there we have it, guys. 442 to Jugga with 165 to FCLM. Quite an upset for fifth column there.
Definitely,
Absolutely,
I think
you can see the guys at the end there. The FCLM guys managed to get all the Jugga guys around the silo and just gunned them all down in cold blood after the match end. Probably in a bit of frustration there, trying to shoot them for 30 minutes, and they finally got their chance.
definitely. I think a little bit of an upset with the predictions that we made, Spadge.
Oh, definitely, we were way off the money. Terrible.
But I think both teams, especially for FCLM, just sort of taking away, really needing to look at the way they push. You know, Spuddle's doing an excellent job of getting those one or two picks, really opening it up for FCLM. But unfortunately, the rest of his team not really taking advantage of that. You know, those one or two picks that he would get. And Jugga really just doing an excellent job, as I would have expected, of taking hold of that point and really denying FCLM from even getting back into their own building and getting any sort of real foothold.
Absolutely, Jugga just. I think for me, their tactic must have been going in. Okay, we think that we have the confidence to, at any situation, our 6 guys will outshoot any one of their 6. So they spread themselves as thin as they possibly could. There was rarely 2 guys standing next to each other, or if anything, they were 2 separate doors in the same building, something like that. But there was never a point where you thought, okay, Jugga's just gone down 3 men. FCLM's going to push in now. They might have got one pick, the FCLM guys, but then they never backed that up at all because there was an opening was covered. They almost knew without being told, because there's no way, no matter how good you are at communicating, that you can say, I've gone down here, I need someone to cover me. It was almost like Exocet would just call out, I've gone down, and 2 guys would know exactly where he went down and where they needed to cover. They just were working really, really well as a team. There's just absolutely nothing that FCLM could have done there, aside from outshoot them. So for me, they just got outplayed, they got outgained, and that's a tough loss. Because like we said at the start, we're thinking close game. I gave it to Jugga by a close game, and yourself said it was going to be a close game, but a real blowout on that one. That's going to be a hard one for FCLM to swallow, but there's a lot they can learn from that because they did a lot of things wrong, and you learn a lot more when you do a lot of things wrong than you do when you do a lot of things right. From Jugga, they've shown their hand of how they play. They've shown this really strong hand, but there are going to be parts that you can pick apart in it. Little bits and pieces that you can just nitpick, and if they try and employ that again, well, then it might bite them. So for FCLM, big learning experience, tough loss, but they just need to grow from that and just get a bit better.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing that they really need to focus on is just that teamwork. The sort of individual skill is definitely sort of equal to Jugga. I think it's just Jugga had that teamwork element as you would sort of expect them to after, you know, seeing the way they play on live. So that would definitely be something FCLM should take away from this match.
Hey, at least they don't have to fight up again unless they come up against them in the finals.
That's it.
That is definitely the silver lining there. It was amazing, sort of, the way that Jugga sort of countered everything. Like you'd see that they were going to come around the silos, and then all of a sudden Jugga would have like 3 or 4 guys there like straight away, or they'd be coming around the other side, and then they'd sort of like fluctuate, knowing where the FCLM were coming from. It was quite interesting to see, and it'll be interesting for the other teams to see if they're trying to counter Jugga when everyone else comes up against them as well.
And individual performance-wise, you can't look past Newt. 27 kills for 4 deaths. That is absolutely ridiculous. He died on average once every 8 minutes in that game. That's silly. To show you how well protected he was far enough back that he wasn't getting shot at, but he's close enough that he still managed to pick up 27 kills in a close quarters sniper role, which is insane. So that really, for him, I'd say it would probably be a breakout for him, and he wanted to show himself off because he had connection troubles in the last game against Dyer, the practice match, where they managed to scrape out a win by 1 point despite being a man down for most of the game. So he really stamped himself on this one. He's come up huge in this game. 46 net score, really dominant, highest in the game.
And I think that sort of showed in the way that Slime Hunter really struggled just being able to counter Newt Newt throughout the match, particularly in the second half where Newt Newt, had the top of FCLM's building and was just suppressing not only Slime Hunter but the rest of FCLM as they tried to push around that L shape. So he did an excellent job, not only in getting kills himself, but getting those assists, getting that one body shot and letting the other Jugga heavies clean the FCLM guys who've been body shot up.
Rightio. So looking at our next match coming up, so our next match on Thursday, the 22nd, so this Thursday coming up, we've got 2 rounds, one after another. Soka versus RSNC for the first round and Gab versus Dyer for the second round coming up for that night, both at Pale Canyon as well. Guys, any really quick early predictions on those ones?
Ooh. Yep, I reckon, honestly, the Soka and RSNC one will be an interesting one. RSNC probably looking to stamp a bit of authority over the Soka guys, seeing them pretty recently in a practice match. So, for me, I think RSNC going in with an edge, but a well-known edge. So, it's up to Soka to come up with a game plan to put together to beat those guys. They've seen them play. They've seen what they're going to do and what they're up against. So if they can throw together a good team that's centered around dismantling what RSNC is going to throw at them, which we all know what it's going to be, then I think they're a chance. I think that one will be a close match, but I'd give it to RSNC at this stage. Gab and Dyer, I think, is going to be a real marquee match. Really, really closely fought match.
Clearly, you guys are a little bit biased on that one, aren't you?
No,
just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
I'm going to give it to the Dyer guys at this point because I think that the Gab guys have come in pretty well hyped, and I am a Gab guy myself. But no, I honestly think that if Dyer puts their A team on the field and the guys that can show up do show up, I think the Gab guys are probably in for one of their biggest challenges. And very early in the season, no one's really had a real match. You've got a bit of stress going into it. This one counts. It's not a practice. So I'd give it to Dyer, an extremely, extremely close match in that one, but I'll be looking forward to that one big time.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see.
I probably won't be joining you guys for that match, actually, because I'm more than likely going to be playing in it, depending on what Callow reckons. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one, regardless of whether I get to play in it or not. It's definitely going to be, Gab definitely have our probably 2 hardest weeks to start off with. We've got Dyer at Pale Canyon first, and Jugga, I believe, at Fallbridge Chemical next week. So definitely our 2 hardest weeks to start off with. Really looking forward to that match, though.
Definitely just picking Dyer because the boys decided to bench me. I'm a bit bitter. Nah.
It's your own fault for going negative, mate.
Rightio, well, we better wrap it up there. Thanks for being here with us, guys. This is the Briggs Farmers League. I'm Adam Foxy, an original name gamer, here with Kelios and Spadge from Gab, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.